Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm Joanne Weir. I guess I should tell you that. I titled this 21 meals a week because if you think about it, if we eat 3 meals a day, 7 days, it's 21. And when I was growing up, my mother always said, she was also a chef, and my mother always said, you have to eat because you're having these meals, you want to eat good food. You want it to be fresh. You want it to be seasonal. And so I really started thinking about these 21 meals. And I thought, well, it's also great to keep them simple. So what I'm going to do is 4 different dishes that are 4 different recipes. I'm going to start by making a soup. It's a sweet pea gazpacho, perfect for this season. And then I'm going to make a salad that is made with green goddess dressing and also some cucumbers that are pickled. And then for the main course, well, kind of a main course, it's kind of something that you could use for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And it is eggs in purgatory. I know that's quite the name for a dish, but it's eggs that are cooked in a tomato sauce. It's an Italian dish. And then love, and it is a torta de Santiago, which it's just a Spanish almond cake. So I'm going to get started first of all making the soup, and I'm telling you, this is so easy. So you all know tomato gazpacho, and one of the common denominators in every gazpacho is bread. And so I'm making this one, instead of using tomatoes, what I'm doing is I am going to use peas, and they're also sweet. And it's really, really a wonderful kind of soup that I got inspired to years ago, making this a few years ago. And it's just so delicious. Now, I usually make this, you can make it with fresh peas, but you can also use frozen, believe it or not. And so if you are going to use frozen, you don't need to even blanch them. But if they're fresh, these are blanched. And Bob has done all the fantastic prep for me. So Bob, anyway, how long did you blanch them? Just like 2 minutes? Okay, a minute. All right. So I'm just adding these to Vitamix, and I have to tell you, I'm a serious Vitamix user. I love the Vitamix. No, I don't work for Vitamix. It's just such an incredible machine. What I love about it is that Vitamix told me this at one point, that it has the same horsepower as a chainsaw. So anyway, anything that's got that much power, I love. So I'm also adding some cucumbers that have been peeled and seeded. And I'm sure you know how to do that. I peeled them first, cut them down the long way, and then with a spoon, I just scooped out the seeds. They're bitter, and they also have a lot of moisture. So I'm adding those. And also I'm adding some sugar snap peas, and these were also blanched. So we just trimmed off the ends of those. And then if there's some strings, it doesn't really matter because the Vitamix is so powerful, it's going to get rid of any kind of texture if it's tougher. So yeah, we're definitely gonna have a lot of soup. So let's see. And then I also want to add some garlic. So always in a gazpacho, I'm thinking here, I also have the bread. And so I think I'm going to take a few of these out. But in a gazpacho, the common denominator, as I said, is always some bread. So this is bread that I put some water over them and kind of soak that bread in water. And you want bread that has some texture to it. The hardest thing of my job is taking the covers off these. And so just a little bit of water. So you're really moistening them. And you can even add a little bit of that water to the gazpacho. So gazpacho is such a wonderful summer soup. It comes from Spain, but every single gazpacho in Spain would use bread in it. And the reason for the bread is your way to use up your leftover bread. In the Mediterranean, bread for something. In the Eastern Mediterranean, it's a fattoush. In Italy, it will be papa al pomodoro, the delicious tomato soup, and also bread salad. Do you know? Panzanella, thank you. I can't believe, thank you. Bob's right beside me, so he can answer all these questions that I'm forgetting. Anyway, and then a little bit of garlic. And the garlic doesn't have to be finely chopped, mainly because you're going to let I think it did everything. Oh, a little bit of salt. you're going to let the Vitamix do the work for you. I also have a dry towel. Is there one there? So I'm going to add some salt. I'm just using kosher salt. If you're buying kosher salt, one of my favorites is definitely the one you want, the one in the red box. I don't use Morton's mainly because it's a little bit coarser, and I really like the fine texture or the texture of this one, and it melts much faster. So and a little bit of olive oil. I would say a couple tablespoons. You know, in Spain they're very generous with their olive oil. And I'm using a little sherry vinegar. You could use red wine vinegar also if you wanted to, or even white wine. But sherry is nice because it comes from Spain. So you're kind of, the flavors, you're kind of pulling them together. And Diamond was the one in the red box. So sorry, I meant to tell you that. So this Vitamix, I'm just going to puree this until it's absolutely pulverized. Let's see, every single one is different. So I start at the lowest and then just go all the way up. And then I just hope. I'm going to add a little bit of water to that. I know this is going to be thick anyway. The other thing that you can do is you can add ice cubes, and that will chill it down too. And it will also thin it out. Let's see. I'm going to add a little more. I think I need to, do you have something like a, maybe the end of this spoon? Thank you. I've got a lot in here. Let's see how that is now. Amazing. I'm gonna add more water. Can you take the top off? I'm just gonna add this in. Oh, thank you. You must have a lot in there. You know what it is? The sugar snap peas. Maybe we can stir that. Yeah, thank you. This one's different. So now this is pureed. Of course, what you want to do now is you want to taste this and see what you need. I tend not to use a lot of black pepper. Oh, it's delicious. It needs a little bit of vinegar. And I'm going to add a touch more salt. So delicious. Those peas give it such delicious flavor. They're so sweet. I'm adding just a little bit more salt. I'm so brave because now I'm going to turn it on again and hope that. There. That's what I want. So usually what I would do is I would puree this until it's really, really smooth, but I don't want you to have to wait while I do that. So I'm going to just plate that. And I like to keep the garnish on this kind of simple. What I have is I saved a few of those peas. And look how beautiful that texture is. So you could puree it a little bit longer if you like, because the Vitamix will make it so smooth. And just a little drizzle of some olive oil. As I said, those Spanish, they love their olive oil. And so do I. I seriously could drink olive oil. That's probably the thing I have most in common with Alice Waters. Anyway, there is your finished soup. Ooh, I see it right there. It looks beautiful. Oh, if I do say so myself. Anyway, what I want to do next is I am going to make a salad. And this is going to be a salad with little gems. We don't have the little gems, but instead, those were called. Oh, yeah, they're beautiful. I think the produce that we're getting now, I live in San Francisco, but it's so nice for me to be here. I grew up here in Western Massachusetts, and I actually grew up in Northampton, but went to school here. And I love all the produce that's coming here now. Yesterday, I picked up a CSA box with my sister, and just to see all this produce, it's always been great. And I've always had such a soft spot for going to any farm stand. And I think the farm stands in Western Massachusetts are so great. Hopefully you have them where you live also. So we have some beautiful lettuces. You can see, these are so nice. Where are these from?
No local, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, after all that, but look how beautiful they are. They're so nice. I feel like I'm in San Francisco. So I'm going to make a dressing, the Green Goddess dressing. And what we'll do is, you have that plugged in, thank you. I think you can move it over a little bit closer. Thanks. So I have some for the dressing. What I have is some chives. And when I was here last night, I picked some chive flowers in my sister's garden. And I made, first of all, a chive vinegar just by putting the chive flowers in the vinegar and let it sit overnight. And then I made a dressing that had the chive flowers, the chive flower vinegar in it, and also extra virgin olive oil. And then I put the chive flowers on the top. It was delicious. So it's fun, just to think about some of the ingredients that you find in your garden and things that you can make with them. And it's so inspiring. But I have a little bit of flat leaf parsley, and then a couple of anchovies. If you're a person that doesn't like anchovies, one of the things I can say to you is to take your anchovies and to soak them in water and then pat them dry. It takes away that oil that they're stored in. So I'm just taking 2 anchovies. For those of you who say, oh, I don't like them, you will if you soak them. They're great. What they add is a little bit of body and also salt. So, and then a little bit of white wine vinegar. I think that was the right amount, right? Yes. And you want to process this? Let's see. What? Yeah, olive oil. Thanks. So I'm just making this dressing with the a little bit of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil also. Oops. This is a new blender for me. So I love a challenge. Let's see. This is when I say, Bob, why don't you fix this? Oh, I'll take a little more vinegar. We'll just make a lot. And then I'm going to add a little creme fraiche too, which gives that beautiful creaminess. All right. See, I needed him. Okay, a little bit of salt and also some pepper. I want to definitely taste this one. And, gee, it's an interesting. We're going to have to clean that up. I don't know how you store that. And I always say the best way to taste the dressing is to take it with a leaf of lettuce. You can't taste it just by using a spoon. So I take a leaf of lettuce and dip that in. I know I'm still going to add that creme fraiche, but I want to see how it is now. It's a little bit acidic, but it's really good. I love the chives. So good. Let's see. Creme fraiche. Creme fraiche is really just thickened cream. So you can make it yourself if you want to. All you do is get some cream, you heat it to 110 degrees, and you have to add some kind of starter. So you'll want to add something like a little bit of yogurt or some sour cream that you might have. And by the way, you don't have to make this with creme fraiche. You could do sour cream too. Creme fraiche is probably not quite as sour as sour cream. And I want to just pulse this now. Jeez. It's delicious, but it needs a little bit more oil because it's quite acidic. Or you could also use a little bit more of the creme fraiche. I'm going to add just a little bit more, and I think that'll be right. It's got a really nice creaminess to it. The flavor of the creme fraiche is so delicious. You might want to clean that area up. That would be great. And I also want to pickle some cucumbers. And by the way, I just want you to know, you can hardly even taste the anchovy. It just gives some nice body to it. So I'm taking some cucumbers that are just thinly sliced. You can peel them if you want, but I kind of like the color. By the way, it would be really nice to use radishes in this as well. And I'm adding a little bit of white wine vinegar. I usually let these sit for about 5 minutes, but you know, with the magic of television, add a little bit of sugar. I like that kind of sweetness with the acidity, and then also a touch of water because they get quite acidic. And of course, we need some salt. And you need a good amount of salt. So you can just stir that together. And these are so thin, they will absorb that liquid very quickly. So you'll have the kind of sweet and slightly tart flavor. Let's see. And you'll still have the crunch of the, oh, those are good. All right. Now I'm going to taste this dressing one more time. I want to make sure. It's good. It has a nice acidity, but it's really good. Let's see. Take some of that beautiful lettuce. And would you grab that plate over there for me? Thanks, Bob. And a little of your dressing. Is this? And I'll take a rubber spatula and I'll just toss that together. Oh, yeah, I like this. Yeah. I tend to toss things with a rubber spatula, toss a salad that way. So Green Goddess is such a wonderful dressing. It's very American, but there's nothing like it. You know, traditionally it is made also with tarragon sometimes, and that's really delicious too. So you could do that if you wanted to. I tend to use my hands a lot for this, but I'm trying to refrain. Okay, so I'm going to add a few of those cucumbers that have been drained, just using a slotted spoon. And then also I have some cherry tomatoes that are halved. And I never add whole cherry tomatoes. I don't like the texture of eating them like that. I also think that whenever you're using tomatoes, You always need some salt. So I'm going to give a little pinch of salt just to those tomatoes that I put onto the top. And then once again, toss this. Sometimes I kind of call this my farmer's market salad because it's all the things you get in the farmer's market, all those beautiful greens. And you know, I worked at Chez Panisse for a long time. And one of the funny things about Chez Panisse is the way that we plate things is, and I feel like I still work there because sometimes I go back there and work, but the way that we plate things is we always try to make it look like it kind of fell out of the garden, but we spend a lot of time making it look like that. Anyway, so a few of the tomatoes and also your cucumbers. And then I was thinking about a couple of those chives on the top. I have a thing about chives this trip. Just they're so beautiful and lots of flavor. So there is your salad. Now, the next thing that I want to make is something that I love this recipe. I explained before, it's called eggs in purgatory. So of course, you know what purgatory is, but anyway, the eggs, I love this dish because you can have them for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I think during COVID, what was really interesting was trying to find things that you had everything in your refrigerator. And this for me was one of them. So this one, what I do is, first of all, let me tell you how I made the sauce. Let's see. Thank you. What I did was to first start by sauteing some pancetta, and you could also use guanciale. So pancetta is actually the pork belly, but guanciale is the pork jowl, and it's more fatty, but it's so delicious. And so I just cut this into chunks. You can see the chunks are about, I don't know, 1/4 inch, maybe a little bigger than that. And then cook those until they're golden on the outside. And then the next thing was just to add some red onions and saute that for about 5 to 7 minutes, a little bit of salt also. And then once I did that, I added just some chopped garlic. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I added some crushed red pepper too. And because you want a little bit of hot. So I call this also eggs in purgatory, but the tomato sauce that I'm doing is really amatriciana. Amatriciana is a sauce that comes from the town of Amatrice, and it's outside of Rome. And this is not the traditional sauce that they make in Italy, but it's one that I make. They don't always add pancetta to it, but who doesn't like bacon and eggs? So that's why I thought eggs in the either pancetta or also guanciale, or you could even use bacon. Bacon is fine too. So I added the garlic, cooked that just for about 1 minute. So it still has kind of a nice fresh flavor. And then I added a little bit of white wine, reduced it till it was almost gone. And then I added the tomatoes. And these tomatoes, I think we had the can. We're using these wonderful, I love muti. And honestly, they're my favorite. They're the #1 tomato in Italy. And I think every time I'm in Italy and I say it, even to an Italian, I'm like, do you use muti? Or I'm making a dish with muti tomatoes. They always light up. So I tried them and said, I love them. But anyway, so definitely if you can try them. But what I love is the pulpa, because it's just the pulp of the tomato. There's nothing else. You're not getting seeds. It's just, they're fantastic. So I know you're thinking, okay, now does she have to make the sauce? No, Bob already made it for me. And he's already got it simmering. He is a star. Anyway, thank you. So let's see. All that goes aside. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to take your eggs, and you can see that this is very thick. And that's what I'm looking for. I want the sauce to be thick like this. If you cut down like this and it leaves a trail, do you see that? That's what you're looking for. because what you're going to be doing is making a little well. So you have a well for each one of those eggs. And so I'm making 4 wells. And honestly, this was seriously during COVID. This was a go-to for me. It didn't matter, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. With some bread, it was perfect. It's kind of like shakshuka, which is funny because one of the girls that was here working, she was saying, that's like shakshuka, and it is like that. So I'm taking the eggs and just, first of all, what I do is I crack them into a bowl. And then that's so if I break them, I don't have to use that one. I want the eggs to stay whole. And then, so usually you can fit 4. Sometimes I do these also in the oven. I'll do them in a baking dish. That's also a great way to do this dish. And by the way, I told you, there's a little crushed red pepper. So you've got a little bit of heat, which is really, really nice. All right. So I'm going to put the top on. And that's 2 to 3 minutes. And those eggs are done. So thank you. And so what I like to serve this with is either some focaccia or some kind of bread, and also some grated Parmigiano Reggiano, or you could also use Grana Padano. Either one of those are really would work really well. But a nice grating cheese. And so I have a nice big chunk of, I think this one's Parmigiano. And then I have some really nice bread. As I said, you could also use some focaccia. This is just toasted, brushed with a little bit of olive oil. And then also what you can do is sprinkle this with a little bit of salt. Sorry, rub it with some garlic, sprinkle it with a little salt. And what is that called? Do you know? Anyway, do you know? Begins with B, bruschetta. Bruschetta. In Italy, what they do is they make bruschetta, and it's to test the olive oil and see the new olive oil, taste the new olive oil of the season. So it's funny because I was just listening to television and Lydia Bastianich was talking, and she said, and I'm going to pick a battle with you because you say bruschetta and it's bruschetta, but it is true. It's bruschetta. That's how they pronounce it in Italy. See, these are almost done. You know what I need is a little pinch of salt on each of the eggs. I seriously, this dish is so delicious and so fun, so easy to make, especially if Bob makes the tomato sauce for you. And then I want to just tear a little bit of basil. So you have some beautiful tender basil. When you buy basil, you want to make sure those leaves are tender. They're sweeter then. I work a lot in Italy, and I really love the food that comes from Italy, but I love the food from any country that uses olive oil for cooking. So I love any food from the Mediterranean, and all my books really are about the Mediterranean, except I did write one book about tequila and opened a Mexican restaurant. So, so I can't say that anymore, but anyway, I love the food from the Mediterranean. What I'm doing is just to tear a little bit of basil. I don't use a knife because on the cut marks, it usually turns black. So I'm just, or brown, but what I'm doing is just to tear this. And while that's cooking, I'm just kind of filling my time. But I think that's probably done. And usually I use a baking dish or a pan like this, and I just take this right to the table. So turn this off. And what you can do is grate your cheese right onto the top. If you like more crushed red pepper, by all means, you can add it. Gee. But the cheese is wonderful. You know, it just gives a little bit of saltiness and a little bit more body. And then also a little bit of that basil. And that's all there is to this dish. All right, so we are done. Oh, you're gonna put it right there. Perfect, thank you. Now, I think you can take that. Oh, and also I would just put a little bit of bread right on the side. So I'm going to just put that whole thing right there. And I would even do more cheese. I mean, I don't know if you can ever have enough Parmigiano Reggiano there. So now the last dish that I'm going to do, the last recipe I should say, is I am going to make this cake. This is a cake that comes from Spain. It comes from Galicia. That is in the northwest corner of Spain. There is a pilgrimage that goes all across Europe, and it ends in the town of Santiago de Compostela. And the patron saint of this area is St. James. And so they make this cake. It's made with almond flour. It's gluten-free and it's dairy-free, which is so wonderful. And, you know, those cakes aren't that easy to find, but also don't taste as good without those ingredients. So it's kind of amazing. But anyway, the reason it's a celebration of the pilgrimage that people take, and many people still do that pilgrimage, and maybe some of you have done it. I've never done it, but I know I've seen people hiking on the trail. Anyway, this is what you're rewarded with at the end when you get to Santiago de Compostela, and you get this cake, but on the top, they dust it with sugar and they have the cross of St. James on the top. But for me, lately, this has been a favorite. I think it's the easiest cake like on earth to make. Honestly, so what you do is sugar and also whole eggs and egg whites. So I'm doing 3 whole eggs and 3 egg whites, and then a good pinch of salt. And then you whisk that together. So you need 1 bowl for this, which is really wonderful. On my website, there's also another almond cake that's incredible that takes about 1 minute in the food processor. And that's very almondy also. It's got lots of almond flavor. And but this one is my new favorite. I really like almonds and they're so good for you. They're definitely one of the ingredients in the Mediterranean diet that's really beneficial. So that's it on that. Then also you are adding vanilla extract. Thank you. You were going to stop me, I hope. Anyway, that's going to be a lot of vanilla. I'm adding a ½ teaspoon of vanilla. I'm adding a ½ teaspoon also of almond extract, which is so great. And always get pure almond extract, pure vanilla. And this one is orange extract, which is really nice. The other thing that I add sometimes, and it's not something that comes from Spain, but it comes from Sicily. And I can't say enough about it. It's a new essence that I love called Fiore Di Sicilia. So Fiori Sicilia. And I just, on my show, I just did a cake, an upside down blood orange cake with Fiore di Sicilia in it. It's so wonderful because it's Fiore means the flowers. It's the flowers of Sicily. And it's the scent of vanilla and also orange, which is, we didn't have it. So we ended up using orange extract instead. But I can't tell you, I found it online and it's wonderful. I think King Arthur also has it. So you just whisk this together. And then I'm adding the zest of an orange. So there's lots of orange flavor in this. You could also do it with lemon. I think sometimes the torta, sometimes it's called tarta too, but the torta is sometimes made with lemon instead of orange. But I'm adding the zest of a whole orange. So lots. So you want to get as much as you can. When you're zesting, always make sure you just zest the colored part. You don't want to zest the pith because that's bitter. So that's why I keep turning the orange. And if it was a measurement, it's probably at least 2 good heaping teaspoons. Maybe close to a tablespoon. All right. Whisk that together again. It smells so good. I just love this cake. And I'm using almond flour. So almond flour is just ground almonds. The ones that I like are blanched, so it's nice and white. But you could use either one. I see both are available, but I usually make this with the ones that are peeled. And so you add that together. Mix it well. I'll take that rubber spatula. I think I got everything right. All right. And then you want a prepared pan. So this is oiled and then also a piece of parchment cut and then placed on the bottom and then oiled again. And you want to make sure you do that because you're not going to get it out of the cake pan. But just pour this in. I can't tell you the smell of this between the orange and also the almond. It's so wonderful. Now that's what I mean. It's so easy to make this. You know, you don't have to separate the eggs. And I like the texture of this. I like a cake that has texture. I don't like overly light cakes. I like them, you know, just to be a little bit more dense. It's just a style of cake I like. And then these are just some sliced almonds. I'm putting a few of those onto the top. And then I use sprinkle a little bit of this coarse turbinado sugar. And what happens is it kind of makes this layer on the top that's a little bit crunchy, which makes it really interesting. Okay, and then now I put a few more of the almonds. Sometimes I use the ones that have the skin on, those sliced ones. That looks really nice too. And this goes into a 350-degree oven for about 45 to 50 minutes, just until a skewer or a toothpick goes in and comes out clean. And ta-da! That's the magic of television. It's amazing how fast we cook that. Anyway, that's how it's just so delicious and so flavorful. What I have here is I have some strawberries, also some beautiful blueberries and raspberries. Thank you to Driscoll. And these raspberries are huge and they're so sweet and wonderful. And I was eating the blueberries before. They're delicious. So this is some frozen raspberries that we added a little bit of sugar to them, pure sugar, a little bit of water, I can't remember, a little water, and then and pureed and then just strained. So you probably did it in the Vitamix, or yeah. So I'm just adding that. So we have some nice, you know, berries to go alongside. And thank you. Just toss this together. I think I'll take that board now and I'll cut a piece. So I'm just going to cut a piece of the cake so you can see what the texture is like. And we can make believe we're in Spain, that we just hiked the trail. And I wanted a nice, oh, yum. See, it's got really beautiful whoops, wrong plate. Beautiful texture. Oh, there's a little piece there. I think I better eat it. So good. It's really, really moist, delicious. And a few of the berries on the side. You know, you could add cream, but I don't even think it needs it. There you go. So there's our dessert. So those are 4 new recipes for you. Simple, fresh, healthy, definitely a tribute to all the work that I do along the Mediterranean. And anyway, I thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, I don't know if anybody has questions because I know they said that before, but anyway, thank you so much. Thank you.